Emily, how is sustainability driving change in the real estate sector? And what role is CREtech playing in this transformation?
Well, sustainability in real estate is a really interesting one because sustainability has been important in real estate for as long as real estate has been in existence. But it took quite a long time for the real estate sector to realize that. And that is why we are actually in something of a pickle at the moment, because we can see a lot of the problems that we're now facing are because this has not always been put at the heart of where it needs to be. We've not always designed and developed sustainably. And that's not a criticism of the industry. Things have changed, knowledge has changed, knowledge has grown, but it's always been important. It's always been vital, actually. And the reason that we're seeing such a huge driving force in terms of sustainability and ESG within the real estate sector is quite simple. And again, it's not a criticism of the industry, but it has no choice. It is being forced to make these changes through regulation, public perception, the fact that occupiers and then tenants and employees are saying, I don't want to work somewhere that doesn't meet the standards that buildings need to meet or that spaces need to meet. I care about climate, I care about the environment, and that you've got regulators saying, well, you have to hit these regulations. You've got insurers saying, I'm not sure that's going to be an insurable asset anymore. So it is a real sort of tipping point that the industry is now finding itself facing. And again, if it sounds like a criticism, it's not. The real estate sector is an industry that has done very well for many, many years without having to do much in terms of seismic shifts or changes. And that is now changing. So sustainability is a huge driving force behind real estate and behind the future of real estate, but it always has been. It just hasn't always been given the attention it probably should have been.
Less is more content strategy, shaping the future of the industry in 2024 and beyond.
I've said previously that less is more and way less is way more. So quite a brave strategy to go into deliver something where you're dealing with an audience that is desperate for information and say, okay, here's the information, but we're limiting it. And this is what we're focusing on. And these are the people you're going to hear from. And that's it. It's a personal choice. I mean, some people really appreciate it. And they're like, okay, I know what I'm going to get. And I know that they're going for the really, really top voices, the people that really know what they're talking about around these key issues. So that's the first step. Picking the key issues. So this year, and they change all the time. I mean, this year, obviously, there's a big focus on climate. There's a big focus on AI, although AI is, up and it's down and it's a roller coaster. And there's a big focus as well on the future of work. So it's about really drilling down into those key topics and then going after the best possible people that we can find to talk on those topics and try and limit the number of situations where you have a lot of people on stage all at once, although it's great to hear opposing thoughts and opinions and different thoughts and opinions, and try and move towards more fireside chats, more TED Talks. The reason it's a bold move, I think, is because the culture of the way we consume content now, not just in our professional lives, but in every aspect of our life, has gone from being kind of, you read a book or you watch a TV program. Those days for lots of people are gone now. It's how many devices are you on at one time, and how many screens can you be looking at one time, and how many bits of information on one subject are you getting? But actually, if you're listening to something about AI that's delivered by someone or numerous people who maybe aren't the absolute best person, then you could be listening to a topic on anything. So that's what it is. It's just picking the topics and then really going for the best people we can find. I think it's a fundamental culture difference between the two sides of the tech and the real estate equation, which means that it would be great if there was a way to streamline that process. But as yet, I haven't heard anybody say, I found a fantastic way to work out how to prioritize the technology I need. So if anyone out there is thinking, well, I know, then again, let me know.
I don't think that I found the answer either, but one of the things that I've noticed, right, just vetting and using, being exposed to tech, is that the best technology was developed by end users. In other words, by companies that are actually using it. They developed it originally for their internal use, and they figured that there's a lot of benefit from building that particular solution, and then they went out and they're trying to sell to other companies. So I think, to simplify things, I will say that one of the things that I'm noticing from the tech companies missing the most is that they don't get the end user involved. In other words, not to ask for feedback, because I'm getting this answer all the time. Well, we give feedback all the time from the customer. No, I'm talking about hire people that are or have been the end user, that know how this thing should work. When you put it in their hands, they could tell you what does good, what it doesn't do so well, and how it should look like and operate in order to get the high adoption rate that you would want them to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's crucial, and that's a great point that you make. And I think, if that can be a sort of a fast track way to be able to, and that's all down to a change management and a really important shift around culture and a shift around thinking. When you put it the way you put it, it makes perfect sense. And it actually, I think if people were just to hear that, then it might suddenly seem a lot less overwhelming than it currently does. And going to the end user is just absolutely so crucial. That is the voice that people need to hear. So yeah, I completely agree. The biggest thing that's come out of it for me over 20 years writing about real estate is that everything comes down to people, and everything comes down to human-centered design. Now more than ever, I think that you look at what's happening in the offices market, people saying, I don't want to go back to the office, or I don't want to go back to that office. I want to go back to something better, something more amenity-led. I want to go back to something that suits my needs more. The will and the desire of who this industry, whether it be real estate or technology, is designing, developing, building for is just paramount. And so that's the biggest takeaway, I'd say, from every interview that I've done. But interviewing Dan Doctorow about how he managed to persuade 38 landowners under the High Line to agree for it to go ahead when they originally all said no. Those are the other stories that are great to hear, aren't they? And then Zaha Hadid on how she actually lived a very lonely life that nobody really knew about, and really understanding what happens on the other side of these big personalities that you see out in the industry. The relationship between real estate and technology is incredibly complicated and incredibly complex, way more than I think we allow ourselves to stop and take note of. So you have these two industries that potentially have the power to change so much and do so much together, which is great and forward-thinking and innovative and powerful. But there are huge frustrations as well, and it would be remiss not to mention that and also put it to the top of people's agenda. You have two culturally very different sectors. You have real estate, which is traditionally quite slow, very long term, and doesn't really like failing because failure costs money. And then you have, on the other side of the equation, trying to work closely with real estate, the innovation and technology sectors, which moves fast, feels very differently about failure. Without failure, there is no growth, there is no learning, and thinks much more short term. And so it's only natural that you're going to come up against quite a few areas of friction when you get two industries like that trying to work together. And I think that's something that we're seeing a lot. And I don't feel like we've evolved past that yet in the way that perhaps we need to be able to make the most of where technology and real estate work together.